Alright, moving right along to story number 2. Over the past couple of weeks, gang, we have witnessed looting, pillaging, burning. We have seen statues of everyone from Jefferson Davis, Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, Francis Scott Key, Frederick Douglass, Christopher Columbus, and Junipero Serra disfigured, desecrated, and toppled from their plinths. Heck, we've even had full-blown secession. We've had Antifa thugs declare some city blocks their own commune. Remember Chaz, a.k.a. Chop, a.k.a. Chopastani, where people were being shot at, but the cops and the medical teams still couldn't get in to actually save lives like they're supposed to. And remember how the Mayor Jenny Duncombe, kept saying, oh, this is just a summer of love. This is democracy in action. And she didn't do a damn thing. She didn't get off her hands and actually do her job until a member of the Seattle City Council leaked her address to the mob. And they were protesting outside of her home. And then all of a sudden, oh my God, the safety of the mayor is in jeopardy. Quick, get Her Majesty to safety and tear down those barricades. But remember that. Remember that on those barricades at Chopastani, there were signs saying, leaving the U.S. if you stepped over and actually entered into the Antifa utopia, where people were getting shot and harassed and people with all the weapons were bullying you with their warlord. Remember that. We have also had, honest to God, black paramilitary groups now telling people going to parks in Georgia, Stone Mountain Park to be exact, going up to people and saying, why aren't you paying my reparations? Why aren't you paying my reparations for what your ancestors did to my ancestors? We've had all of that. And yet, very seldomly have the police been called. They've been told just to ignore it, or when they have actually done their job and arrested these thugs, very mysteriously, their bail is put up within a few hours. The members of the Biden campaign are providing bail. Hollywood elitists in their gated communities are providing bail money for them. They can rant, they can run amok on our streets. They're safe behind their gated community, so they'll bail them out. So, the long and the short of it is that people are breaking the law. There is anarchy on the streets of so many of our cities. And law and order is just being swept under the rug. The police are not doing their jobs. But if you dare to quote-unquote vandalize a Black Lives Matter mural or a gay mural that is painted on a street, then the full force of the law is going to come down on you like the hammer of Thor, like Mjolnir thrown from the heavens. You, my friend, will be struck by the lightning of the gods, and justice will be swift and terrible. Both of those things happened this week. One in California, and one actually across our northern border in Vancouver. This is what happened on the California side of things. In the city of Martinez, California, the Black Lives Matter group obtained a permit to actually paint a Black Lives Matter mural on the street of Martinez, which just said Black Lives Matter. And then, just a few hours after that mural had been painted, a couple came and defaced, quote unquote, the mural. Okay, this is what ABC News had to say about the story. Quote, 2 people identified by the district attorney as Nicole Anderson, 42, and David Nelson, 53, were seen on July 4th painting over the B and L in the word black, which had been painted in yellow with black paint. In the video, the man identified as Nelson can be heard saying, "There is no racism, it's a leftist lie, and no one wants Black Lives Matter here." When a woman could be heard asking, "What's wrong with you?" the man replied, "We're sick of this narrative. That's what's wrong. The narrative of police brutality, the narrative of oppression, the narrative of racism. It's a lie. He was wearing Trump 2020 garb and yelled, 'Make America Great Again.' So now you know that he's the villain of the piece." Well, to make a long story short, for this act of protest, which wasn't that patriotic just like a couple of years ago? I mean, just last week even, weren't they saying that protesting was patriotic? For that crime, quote unquote, they have now been charged. This David Nelson and Nicole Anderson, they have both been charged with a hate crime. They have been charged with a hate crime for defacing a mural that was put on the streets. This is what the Martinez police said in their statement. Okay? Quote, "The community spent a considerable amount of time putting the mural together only to have it painted over in a hateful and senseless manner." In addition to the hate crime, Anderson and Nelson also face charges of vandalism and possession of tools to commit vandalism or graffiti. That is what is happening to them. Now, the Costa Rica County District Attorney, Diana Becton, she had this to say: "We must address the root and byproduct of systematic racism in our country. Black Lives Matter movement is an important civil rights cause that deserves all our attention. The mural completed last weekend was a peaceful and powerful way to communicate the importance of Black lives in Contra Costa County and the country." Unquote. Now, over on the Vancouver side of things, this is what happened over in Vancouver. All right, this was also over this past weekend, and this was actually tweeted out by the West Vancouver Police Department. "Investigators would like to speak with the driver responsible for defacing a recently installed Pride crosswalk at 16th Street and Esquimalt Avenue. If you have information, please call blah blah blah." And they have a picture, gang. They have a picture of the vandalism, the defacement, as it were. It's a skid mark. It's a skid mark over this rainbow mural on the street. It's on a crosswalk. They actually have a video of it. A reporter, okay, named Sonia Aslam, actually tweeted out the video of it. Now, she's all for the person who actually has been identified now. She was all for this person being identified and put into the Who's Gal, brought before the enforcers of the law for this terrible crime. Because, as she says, if you recognize the car below, tell police. She has a video from a security camera on the area of what happens. All it shows is a car waiting and then speeding around the curve. That's it. A skid mark is now defacement. If you happen to be defacing a gay mural, this more than anything else, I believe, these two stories show what we are dealing with. And that is the complete and utter dismantling of our system and replacing it with an animal farm where all people are equal, but some people just are more equal than others. You know, it's the luck of the draw. Some people are more equal than others. Because, I mean, just on the obvious statement of it, just on the obvious face of it, you can tear down statues, you can loot, you can burn, you can do all of those things. You can burn down a Wendy's, for heaven's sake, and get away with it. But if you deface a mural, because if you deface a mural that was put there by so-called oppressed minorities, then you are going to pay. Then the full weight of the law is coming down upon you. Like these poor suckers in Martinez, California. Vandalism, possession of tools to commit vandalism and graffiti, and a hate crime. And a hate crime. Simply for expressing themselves, as it were. It gets even better though, gang. It gets even better though on the California story, because the owner of a pizzeria in Martinez, a guy by the name of Rocco Biale, a third-generation Bay Area restaurant owner. Okay, he owns Rocco's Ristorante Pizzeria, a Walnut Creek hub for families and high school sports teams for 21 years. He actually got into a Facebook back and forth with a city council member, Tim Farley. Okay, it wasn't Facebook, it was Twitter. Because Tim Farley, because he was asking, let me back up. Biale was asking Farley, why is this couple in trouble? Why? Why is this couple in trouble? And Farley was saying, well, they totally could have expressed themselves if they had gotten a permit, get an approval, and do it in a safe and non-threatening way. Okay, we're talking about, pause right there. We're talking about two people, a woman in her 40s and a man in his 50s. Okay? What was threatening about them blacking out two letters? The guy wearing a 2020 hat and saying, "Make America Great Again." There's nothing threatening about that. Objectively speaking, it's only threatening to an ideology that wants to push its own narrative. And then Tim Farley continued. He says, when they intentionally vandalize others, that is a crime. So if you vandalize other people's murals, that's a crime. Rocco Biale then responded perfectly and said, did the rioters and protesters get a permit to take down Grant, Lincoln, Columbus, Jackson, Sierra, etc.? And Farley, of course, is saying, oh, those are two separate issues, like a typical politician completely ignores the facts before him, weasels out of it, like a typical politician. Now, this is where it gets interesting. It wasn't long. This is according to the Mercury News. Quote, it wasn't long before locals took to social media pledging to ban the restaurant as a result of Biale's comments. By noon on Tuesday, Yelp already had 35 one-star reviews slamming Biale's comments. And by 3 p.m., Yelp had shut down the commenting function on Rocco's page. Should go out of business, wrote Austin R. of San Francisco. There is no tolerance for a racist business owner in 2020, Jess M. of Concord wrote. Rocco's is canceled. Racist owner blasted himself all over social media. It's too bad because I have been eating here since early 2000s. There's no room for racism. I will post his comments on social media to spread awareness on this, unquote. Now, because of all this, Biale posted an apology on Monday. This past Monday, he posted an apology. He caved. There are so many things about this gang. First and foremost, this would prove in an objective world, again, if we lived in an objective world, this would prove that systematic racism is a myth. Because Black Lives Matter can get permission to put a mural on a public street. They can put a political message on a public street. The streets that our tax money goes to. The people of Martinez own that street communally because they all pay for it to create it and to maintain it. Black Lives Matter could come in and they were given full permission to put a political message on public property. Okay? If there was systematic oppression, the same with the gay group, whoever did the gay mural in Vancouver. These people, the supposedly oppressed people of Western civilization, they were able to actually get permission to do that. Do you honestly think that if Nelson and Anderson, these two middle-aged Americans, common people, do you think that if they had asked permission to put another mural on another street, like MAGA, or Don't Believe the Lie, or Trump 2020, or anything, do you think that they would have been given permission to put it on a public street? No, I can guarantee you right now that they would not have received permission. They would not have. Therefore, we can see systematic racism, it doesn't exist, which was Nelson's point this whole time. He says it's a lie. Systematic racism is a lie. It was just proven to us again through these actions. Okay, that's the first point. The second point is that you no longer live in a republic when this sort of thing happens. If some people are more equal than you, then you don't have a Republican society. Equality is gone. Freedom is gone because you are subservient to the people who are most oppressed. You are subservient to the mob because all of these groups, honestly, Antifa, BLM, the LGBTQIA2+, these radical immigration groups like Raza, La Raza, they're all congealing and conforming into one super syndicate, almost. That's a really good way to describe them, actually. A super syndicate. They're the ones in charge. They are going to make the rules. They are going to put the boundaries up. And they are going to extract their type of justice because they are going to work through their puppets, which are now many of our elected officials and also many of the heads of the corporations that we patronize. People like Walmart and Target and Apple and Chick-fil-A, right? Excuse me. And places like that. That's the second thing. The third thing is that it is now racist to ask a common question. Rocco Biale, he was saying, he raised an excellent point. Okay, if these protesters who were tearing down all of these statues, desecrating all these statues, if they didn't need a permit, why do these two middle-aged people need a permit? That is now racist. So there is no room. Another sign that we are living now. I mean, it's not even coming anymore. We are living in a totalitarian society because now asking a question is thought crime, and you will be squished like a bug for daring to ask a question like that. Fourth, I understand, in a sense, I understand why Biale caved and he kissed the ring. I understand it to an extent. Because there is a lot of psychology just seeing negative comments come in. And just seeing them in a row. You're a racist, you're a hater, you're a bigot. It gives you the feeling. It honestly does. It gives the impression that you are alone. No one is standing for you. And so with that, and then just for self-preservation, because you don't want this business that's been here, you don't want your livelihood, your passion to go out. You don't want it to be taken away from you. And so you just cave and you say, all right, I'll say anything. I'll say anything. I'll do anything. Just leave me alone. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I spoke out of turn. Please forgive me. I understand that to an extent. I understand it. And I sympathize with that. But here's the catch, gang. We are not going to turn this thing around if we keep apologizing. If we keep caving every time there's pushback, we are not going to turn this thing around. We're not going to be equal. We're not going to be free. Now, I fully admit that it is very, very, very easy for me to say that, sitting here as I am in the Midwest, behind my camera, just making a YouTube video. And I have no idea. If I had been in Rocco Biale's position, Who knows? I might have made the exact same decision that he did. But that in and of itself is proof of the problem, that there is something in our mentality that is not being riled up. We don't want trouble. We don't want pain. We don't want discomfort, even when we understand the implications, or at least we have a vague understanding of what those implications are if we give into this. But we can't seem to muster that up. And until we actually, punch the bullies back, metaphorically or however, then they're only going to become more and more emboldened. Because that's what these people are. These people are bullies. Most of them, so many of them, are just bullies. They're not courageous. Many of them are, but whole lot of others of them are not. And there's only very few ways to deal with bullies. But if you keep apologizing to the bullies, they are just going to bully more people, and they are going to bully harder, because every victory that they get gives them a boost, puts more steam into their engines. And so we really have to start asking ourselves, all of us, okay, and I'm including myself in this too, we need to start asking ourselves, what are we willing to give up? What are we willing to sacrifice for our future, our kids' future, the country's future, our culture's future, the future of the heritage that we have inherited? What are we willing to give up for that? More food for thought. That is story number 2.